Hello, America. This is Call of Duty Goddess. Today is June the 13th, 2016. I'm at Judicial Watch's Corruption Chronicles. Had an article titled, Orlando Terrorists Worked at Security Company Hired by the DHS to Transport and Release Illegal Aliens. And that's from June 13th, 2016. The ISIS terrorists who committed the worst mass shooting in U.S. history worked for a security company contracted by the Department of Homeland Security to protect federal facilities nationwide and transport illegal immigrants apprehended in the southern border region. Earlier this month, Judicial Watch launched an investigation into the Florida-based security firm, G4S, after breaking a story about illegal immigrants being quietly transported from the Mexican border to Phoenix and getting released without proper processing or court appearance documents. G4S was contracted by DHS to drive the group of illegal aliens classified as other than Mexican from the Border Patrol's Tucson sector, where they were in custody, to a Phoenix bus station where they went their separate way. The OTMs were from Honduras, Colombia, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And if you believe that, I've got oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you because I'm at the LA Times here. Job protections extended to immigrants using false ID, court rules. Yes, the Supreme Court, baby. California's legal protections for workers who suffered job discrimination extend to immigrants who illegally use others' social security numbers to get their jobs, the Supreme Court ruled. 5-2 Thursday. Although federal immigration law prohibits an unauthorized alien's use of any false document to get a job, that law does not prohibit an employer from paying or an employee from receiving wages earned during employment wrongfully obtained by false documents, so long as the employer remains unaware of the employee's unauthorized status. Justice Joyce Kennard, who is now retired, wrote for the majority. We are Sharia compliant. Our government is openly, outwardly attacking us. They have been. Let's get back to the article here. And Border Patrol officials told Judicial Watch they were in custody for a couple of days and ordered to call family members in the U.S. so they could purchase a bus ticket. Authorities didn't bother checking the identity of the U.S. relatives or if they're in the country legally, according to a Border Patrol official directly involved in the matter. Judicial Watch was on the scene when several van loads of other than Mexicans arrived at the Phoenix Greyhound station on Buckeye Road just a few days ago. A photo accompanying our story shows one of the uniformed G4S guards that drove a van load of other than Mexicans from Tucson to Phoenix earlier this month. G4S claims to be the world's leading security solutions group with operations in more than 100 countries and 61,000 employees. G4S has more than 50,000 employees in the U.S. and its domestic headquarters is in Jupiter, Florida. Judicial Watch has filed a number of public records requests to get more information involving the arrangement between G4S and the government, specifically the transport of illegal immigrants from the Mexican border to other parts of the country. The investigation will expand to include documents and information pertinent to Omar Mateen, an Afghan-American with 2 firearms licenses and a security officer license. Early Sunday morning, the veteran G4S security guard carried out the savage attack in an Orlando nightclub, killing 49 and injuring dozens of others. A multitude of media reports have confirmed that Mateen worked for G4S for nearly a decade, even though he had been investigated by the FBI for terrorist ties. In one Florida newspaper report, the security company confirms that Mateen has been a security guard with a firearms license since September 10th of 2007. A former co-worker told another Florida media outlet that Mateen regularly made threats of violence and that he was an angry, loud, and profane man who used slurs for gay people, blacks, Jews, and women. In 2013, Mateen was investigated by the FBI for terrorism ties and his connections to an American named Moner Mohammed Abu Salaha, who carried out a suicide bombing in Syria. Both men are from the Fort Pierce area in Florida's so-called Treasure Coast. The federal probe didn't seem to impact Mateen's work at G4S, however, because there was no disruption in his employment, even after he openly praised ISIS. This is astounding considering the agency, created after 9/11 to prevent another terrorist attack, has a $234 million contract with G4S to provide security services for a number of federal agencies, including the nation's nuclear facilities and the Departments of Labor, Justice, Energy, State, as well as Internal Revenue Service and Drug Enforcement Administration. Ironically, the government's contract with G4S stipulates that the company helps identify suspected terrorists trying to enter the U.S. and helps the feds with emergency responses to terror threats. Now, why is the DHS hiring this company and not making stringent rules? Why is the FBI's investigation so shoddy? Well, the answer is very old news, ladies and gentlemen. It's because all of their training materials on Islam have been purged and made Sharia compliant. That happened in 2012. It happened in 2012. So let's pick an article out of the many here that Corruption Chronicles and Judicial Watch has done. Let's see. Muslim activists demand overhaul of all U.S. law enforcement training. August 26, 2014. Okay. Judicial Watch report. U.S. government purges law enforcement training material deemed offensive to Muslims. December 9, 2013. Did CIA meet with CARE to purge anti-Muslim training material? It's classified. That's from October 10th, 2014. New York Police Department to purge anti-terrorism material offensive to Muslims. Now, when it's called a psych op, that's more like it, because it is a vital part of the broad range of U.S. political, military, economic, and ideological activities used by the U.S. government to secure national objectives. Psych op is the dissemination of truthful information to foreign audiences in support of U.S. policy and national objectives. Now, that is more like it, but it's still giving people a false sense of security, because when you think about it, our government is Sharia compliant. They are trying to make us now Sharia compliant. When you call it a false flag, which is a covert operations that are designed to deceive in such a way that the operations appear as though they are being carried out by entities, groups, or nations other than those who actually planned and executed them. That's false, because our government has been taken over by Islamic extremists. It's not a false flag. It's freaking true. That's why when people get up and say it's a false flag, it's a psych op, it's not for American people's national interest. It's not another group other than the group who actually intended to do it. It's all done by Islamic extremists who have taken over our government. I have done, I don't know how many videos on this. I'm banging it out constantly because it's what's going on in our country right now. And the people that are telling you these things are deceiving you. They're giving you a false sense of security. Now, I want to thank Tiger Walker for giving me the link to this video, and it's the surgeon at the hospital where the victims of the shooting were taken to. I'll let you look at this video.
Trauma surgeon for Orlando Regional Medical Center, Dr. Michael Cheatham, goes on the record. Nice to see you, sir. How serious are some of the injuries? Are some people not going to make it?
Well, luckily, many of the patients are doing very, very well. And I anticipate actually that the patients that we still have in the hospital are likely all to survive. We wouldn't have thought that yesterday morning with the terrible gunshot wounds that they sustained, but the patients are doing much better today.
When did you first hear about the shooting?
So I heard within a few minutes of the event. One of my partners, Dr. Chadwick Smith, who was on call in the hospital, called me up, and the entire phone call probably took maybe 7 seconds. He said, "I have 20 gunshot wounds. I need you." And hung up the phone and immediately drove in along with one of our other partners.
And so what did you do? What did you confront when you got there?
Chad was trying to handle about 15 gunshot wounds at that time. So my other partner and I took a quick look. We each took a patient upstairs to the operating room, and we made the decision at that point that we needed more manpower. We called in 3 additional surgeons, so we had 6 surgeons in the hospital operating within probably 45 minutes.
Where did you get the surgeons? Because I assume a lot of them don't know how to do gunshot wounds. I mean, it's like, you know, we always, when I practiced law, there's certain hospitals you went to for gunshot wounds and certain hospitals you didn't go for gunshot wounds.
Absolutely. Well, Orlando Regional Medical Center, it's the only level 1 trauma center in Central Florida. So we see sometimes 5, 6 gunshot wounds a night. It's a regular occurrence. We don't see 44 gunshot wounds in a night.
Have you ever seen anything like this? Anything remotely like that?
Nothing like this. We trained for such an event. We never expected to have it happen.
So how long were you at the hospital once you arrived? Until you finally got some time to leave?
I got to the hospital yesterday morning, probably about 2:20 or so. I left to come here.
So you've been nonstop work?
Pretty much.
Same to your partner?
My partner, Joseph Ibrahim, the director of the trauma center, he and I were both there all night long. We're there today. Chadwick Smith is back on call again tonight.
I take it the gunshot, do you have head injuries? I mean, with lasting, really lasting, debilitating injuries, those who survive?
That's typically the case. In this situation, what we've identified is that the patients who received gunshot wounds to the head pretty much died in the club. What I think probably happened is that those victims that were shot elsewhere, chest, abdomen, extremities, managed to get out of the club as people were leaving, and they were able to be carried to the hospital. But those that sustained gunshot wounds to the head pretty much uniformly died.
How fast did they get to the hospital? Is the hospital close to the scene?
The hospital is only 3 blocks away.
Which helps.
Oh, it was tremendous. That is why we have had the excellent outcome, I think, that we have, is that patients got to us so quickly.
Doctor, thank you for joining us. I should add, he's on the board of Samaritan's Purse and does medical work for Samaritan's Purse, and so does his father, who I'm a great fan of. Anyway, nice to see you, sir.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Now, just to make sure I've covered all the bases, I'm at Orlando Health, and this is a picture of the man you just saw, Dr. Michael Cheatham. Now, for those of you who watch my videos on a regular basis, you already know all this, but I'm going to reiterate again that in Benghazi, Operation Zero Footprint was planned out by our government. It was okayed by Congress. We armed and aided and abetted ISIS. We've been doing that for years. We started with the Mujahideen, and they changed their names all down the line. This has been a plan. We've been doing this for years. And it's really telling when the father of this man goes to the State Department, because the State Department just happened to be involved in Operation Zero Footprint, along with NATO and the CIA. When you add all these things up together, it's so much, and it's so blatantly obvious that our government is attacking us. And this was planned by Islamic extremists, which are in our government. It would not surprise me one little bit if someone in the State Department didn't help plan this out. The revelation of what's truly happened to our country, with the Muslim Brotherhood taking it over, has been ramped up, and it's going to keep going. The communists, the secret societies, Everyone in the New World Order is using Sharia and the Muslims to take over not only our country, but the globe. And you can see it because all of our alphabet soup has been taken over by the Muslim Brotherhood. Anyway, I hope I answered everything and showed you that yes, our government is involved in this, but it's very deep because this is not going to stop. They're actively aiding and abetting the Muslim extremists because they're embedded in our government. So, this is Call of Duty Goddess signing off, and as always, I've got your 6.